Hamilton, thank you for agreeing to do this interview. If you wouldn't mind, just introduce yourself and the position that you have right now and where you're working.
All right, so Hamilton Allen, graduated from Clemson in 2017 with a PhD in entomology, and currently I work for a company called Sinsky Services located in Kennewick, Washington, and we're a pest control and lawn care company, and I serve as their technical director and training director.
Awesome, appreciate that. I guess the first question is, at what point in your educational career did you start doing research? Or when did you first find out about research?
Well, probably started as a kid, but
right, yeah.
But honestly, I started research after my freshman year of college at Norfolk State University. I was in a program called the DeSorts National Institute of Minorities in Applied Sciences. And so I was in, my cohort consisted of 50 men and women who were all science-related majors, whether that's physics, biology, math, so on and so forth. And so over the course of that freshman year, we had these things called, what was it called? AAS? I forget the name of it, but we had these seminars, these science seminars, and different individuals that graduated from the program or individuals from different graduate schools or professional schools would come and speak to us about internships. And it just kind of felt like the thing to do. And so I followed suit and had my first internship with a professor from Virginia Tech looking at insects.
Cool. So what got you into entomology and research on insects? Was that something that you kind of went into undergrad kind of already knowing that you wanted to do, or how did that come about?
Well, I mean, as a kid, we used to, I mean, you probably heard this story, but we had fire ants on fire, and we could never get rid of them. And at some point in college, well, that freshman year, during that internship, I kind of followed up on that. I was looking at beetles, and since I really wasn't too interested in them, so I had a lot of, I ain't gonna say free time, but I had time to just explore and read. And so I said, let me find out if there's a scientific reason or a biological reason as to why we couldn't get rid of our fire ants. And I read about it and realized that there was, and I was like, you know what? I don't know. I think there's something to this. I didn't make that decision in that particular moment, but definitely followed suit each year after that with the internship in science, just to see if I did want to go to med school, if I did want to become an epidemiologist, or if I wanted to actually study oncology. And, insects kind of led the way.
Okay. So what were some of you said that you, after, like from that point, you did some sort of research internship or in science, basically for the rest of your undergrad career. What were some of the ways that you found those research opportunities?
A lot of them came in, that's what it's called, APS, and it was Applied Science Seminar. And so a lot of them came from APS, or they came from other individuals that left our program and graduated. And so that's kind of how we moved. Now, we would also Google things. Well, we weren't using Google then. It was just Ask Jeeves or whatever it was. And you would look things up online, and you would look up science internships, and particularly a stipend. So you want
right.
And, there were different websites and whatnot. And once, my first one was with, it was an NSF REU. It was an REU program, but it was the Lewis Stokes Alliance for Minority Participants.
Right, okay, yep.
Yeah, LSAMP. And LSAMP, we had a contact, and then that individual would kind of tell us what else was out there within that umbrella, and we would apply to those particular things. And we also did things outside of that, but the LSAMP was one of the big ones.
Yeah, that was one of the staples. Yeah, I know that's a big, a pretty big program. Let's see. So you talked about some of the program graduates coming back and talking to you guys, giving seminars and things like that. This is kind of a two-part question, but what comes to mind when you hear the word networking? within the context of research? And then the second part of the question is, what's the best piece of advice you received about research or pursuing research?
Mm-hmm.
And I can repeat those if you want.
All right. And the first one was what?
What comes to mind when you hear the word networking with respect to research?
Talking to people. That's really just it. It's not being afraid to ask questions, and you know, it's not always going to a meeting and just striking up small talk. It's sometimes, to me, it's looking at someone else's presentation and having a real conversation after that, or following up on someone asking you questions. I remember, you know, I'm not afraid to talk to people, so that kind of came easy to me. But I remember once at Norfolk State when I was giving a talk. This was my senior year. This is my last internship at Norfolk State. And actually, I stayed at the university for this one. And I was working with a woman named Dr. Jervy. So I'm giving my talk, and there was a guy in there. And usually, you know, no one really asked that many questions. And this guy named Sean Cherry stood up, and he asked me a question. And I was surprised, like, who is this dude? I had never seen him before. And so after that, you know, I kind of got off stage, and I went over to him immediately, like, who are you? And, you know, where'd your question come from? And so on and so forth. And he was a new first-year graduate student at Norfolk State. And, you know, that kind of led to us having a relationship after that. But even though it was a small thing, it was a follow-up, and that was kind of like a networking thing.
Right.
It's putting your fear aside to be able to talk about what you're working on and what your interests are.
Right.
And just even if it's not your particular interest, just getting more understanding of what someone else is doing. You know, there's networking for jobs, but networking for research to me is more so answering questions and getting a deeper understanding of whatever that subject matter may be.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, and so the second part of the question was just, what's the best piece of advice you received about pursuing research, or maybe something in a lab? That's kind of a hard question.
Yeah, that's a lot. Because I don't know what the direction is. Is it just like a motivational thing, or is it just what?
Well, I mean, it could really be anything. I mean, we're talking about reasons why research would be beneficial, you know, as an undergrad. But you know, what are kind of some pieces of advice? Maybe not the best piece of advice, but just what some advice you received about either how to look for research opportunities, or what projects to pick, or who to pick as your advisor, where to go for grad school, those types of things.
Okay. I'll say, man, that's a lot though. All right, so I'll give two answers. The first answer is, you know, make money a priority, but don't just follow the money. For an internship, you know, we kind of did that growing up. You know, we were like, if 2,500, oh, that ain't enough. 3,500, that ain't enough. 45, 55, oh, heck yeah, I'm going here. And by doing that, you know, I got to see a bunch of different things, but I probably could have specialized a little bit more, pursued entomology a little bit more as opposed to just following the money. So figure out what your passion is and be observant and have questions. The only way to figure out where you need to go is to be inquisitive and have a question about things. Yeah.
Okay. So a follow-up to that. So you mentioned that you did several different things, primarily because of, you know, the level of the stipend. But can you speak to what was the benefit of getting like a breadth of research experiences?
It let me know what I didn't want to do.
Right. Okay.
You know, so one of them was with the CDC in Atlanta. And the CDC was awesome and all that, but I had these all grand ideas. I'm thinking the CDC, they're gonna be wearing white suits and it's gonna be clean rooms. I'm like, wait a minute, that's not the CDC really. It's more like, you know, public health. It's not the same kind of research that I wanted to be. It wasn't bench science, even though there are individuals that work for the CDC that do bench science. The majority of them are epidemiologists and actuarial scientists and all these other folks that aren't necessarily in the lab.
Right. More data.
And I could have gotten caught up into that because I realized, wait a minute, I want to be in the lab and in the field, pipetting and doing observations in these things, not just looking at the numbers and making correlations that way. Don't follow the money, but definitely, try your hand at different things because it does allow you to see what else is out there and allow you to kind of hyper focus at the end point.
Got it. Okay. What would you say is, well, let me just ask you this question first. How did you feel when you first were introduced to reading research articles?
It was exciting to me. So the reason it was exciting to me is I was a nerd. I used to read. It was difficult though, but I was excited to read these papers to actually see what was going on. And I kind of had an introduction to it in undergrad. We would have to write these papers, in organic chemistry. There was a guy named Dr. Hall. And he used to say, organic chemistry is an upside down triangle. And I'm like, what are you talking about? But then, he would give you these papers and the papers would coincide with what he was teaching about. And so you were able to make this correlation. And it was difficult at times because he would send us to Eastern Virginia Medical School and like, go read this or go figure out this. And we didn't know what to do. So it was kind of daunting. But the positive aspect was that we were able to see things reflected in the actual lab experiments we were performing.
Right.
But he was giving out. But, I was kind of excited about it, but it was a different way of reading for me. It wasn't like reading, Harry Potter or something like that, where you can just read enjoyment. Reading for enjoyment and reading for understanding are totally different things. And, if you're reading Harry Potter, sometimes, you can just take the words as is. All right. Harry played Quidditch. All right. I know that. But in research, if this says the ant is black, I don't necessarily need to look at that and say, that's it for sure. I need to have some level of inquisition and kind of a skewed view of that. I'm like, the ant is black. What do they mean by that? Could it come in other colors? Are they always this way? Why are they black? And so,
right.
I think that was some of the difficulties with it because you're not just looking at the proximate. You're trying to figure out the ultimate.
Right. And was that a skill or was that a perspective that you kind of gained over time, or was it just kind of your natural?
It was somewhat natural, but definitely gained it over time by just reading more and more and more and just being more observant, especially for what I do. You needed to be aware of what was going on and ask these particular questions to try to get to the ultimate. So, yeah, the ant is red, but why is the ant red? To start thinking like that and reading papers with that, they say one thing, but why are they saying that?
Right.
Reflected in this information, yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So this is kind of the last, well, it's not the last high level question, but who, and again, this doesn't have to be a single person, but who would you say were the most influential people in your research career?
At grad school or at the undergraduate level?
Either, both. These students are primarily, we're speaking to undergraduates, but the materials for graduate students. So both is good.
All right, I'll get both. I guess in undergrad it was, man, it's a lot of them because we were in this program.
Right.
Well, yeah. But if I can give it to one, it's probably a woman named Tabitha Jervey. And Dr. Jervey graduated from Norfolk State and went to Eastern Virginia Medical School. And she taught this class. And I can't remember the name, what class it was. But she taught this class. And all of our other classes, all our other biology classes were fairly simple. And you just needed to remember everything. But Dr. Jerby, this is before Dr. Hall, she would just give you these papers and you would have to read them and sit down in lab and talk about them. You, she was the first person to do, well, Dr. Hall was doing research. He was actually studying, I know I'm going all over the place.
No, you're good.
He studied male contraception in mice to try to come up with the ultimate contraceptive for men, to make blind sperm. That's what he called it. And so he had one thing, but then Dr. Jerby was new to the university and trying to build a lab. And so you got to see things from the gestation of research. And she kind of held your hand a little bit more than Dr. Hall and brought you into the space. You were in Dr. Hall's lab, you were in Dr. Hall's lab. But in Dr. Jerby's space, it was like a shared, environment. And
right. Okay.
He took the stress away. And so it was kind of easier you didn't feel like you were on the clock. You were there to learn. In graduate school, it was my first advisor who, I think she changed my life. You know what I mean? To be honest, she was a real advisor and somebody who didn't have any issues with telling you that you were wrong, but doing it in a nurturing way to where you wanted to continue following whatever that problem was to find the right answer. Yeah.
That's great. That's awesome. Okay. Yeah, I appreciate that. So now I want to talk a little bit about your career, how you found out about, the career that you're in, and what were some of the benefits of having a research background or research mindset, and for your current career, how has it served you and what you do?
Mm-hmm. All right. So to find out about my job, I guess internships have gotten me into a lot of spaces. I was a member of something called the National Pest Management Association, and I'm still a member of that today. And they had an internship program to where you would go to this large meeting called Pest World. That's right. Pest World, the biggest pest control conference in the world. About 10,000. It's like 10,000 attendees. And so I got to go there and just assist with the meetings. That's just general stuff, putting up posters, making sure everybody had, registered, making sure people have drink tickets, all this kind of stuff. And the company that I worked for was looking for somebody that was a little more technical to do their training. And so they contacted NPMA and got a listing of the interns for that particular year in 2015. And I ended up getting an email from the owner of the company asking if I've heard about this opportunity and would I be interested in speaking. I was like, no, I don't want this job. I was like, let me call this guy and see what's up. And so I spoke to him. It was supposed to be a 15-minute conversation. It turned into a 90-minute conversation. And then in 2 weeks after that, I was on a plane to the West Coast coming to do an interview. And apparently, I guess it went successful because I'm here now.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. And then the second part is, how does research help me? So as part of, my studies in school, we would get products and test them out before they hit the market, or even after they hit the market to kind of hone in some of the issues that were associated with that products being pesticides, insecticides in particular. And so right now we still receive a bunch of new products, but what it allows me to do is understand the processes involved with getting a product to market and understanding the processes of how to use these products, because I used them before they hit the scene. Mm-hmm. All of our employees have to be licensed to apply pesticides, and I create their training programs. And so since I have this information in my pocket and actually did the stuff to help products get to market, I understand licensing in a different light. And it helps me because they kind of go out there and spray and kill bugs, but they don't always understand the systems at play. And so I understand the full system, the ecosystem around a home, and why we shouldn't just spray a bush, or why if we kill the ants, we get rid of the aphids and all these other things that are at play. And so, we're in a customer-driven industry service industry. And more information I can provide our technicians with, the better off they'll be in the field, because pesticides are something that scares people. And so since I have this relationship with them, and I can sometimes fix that same information to a technician. It works in our favor.
Got it. Okay. So your research background has kind of enabled you to empower your technicians with more information and greater understanding.
And it allows me to scrutinize products better, because somebody will come into the office and be like, hey, I got Jordan right here. You should buy this stuff. It's outstanding. I got a product right here somebody sent to me the other day and it said it was outstanding. But I'm able to reach out to other researchers and individuals that did the studies and say, how is this stuff? And they can tell me that's a load of crap.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have those access points, you know.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. And, you know, like I went to a talk the other day at Pest World. I travel too much sometimes. Pest World was in Orlando. And in Orlando, there was a guy named Eric Payson there who graduated from my lab at Clemson. He worked for one of the chemical manufacturers. And so that relationship that I had never met him before, I just knew of him. But to go to grad school, it allows me to have this relationship with him. And now I have somebody else who can help me with the problem down the line.
It kind of speaks to that networking.
Yeah.
About before. What's been the toughest thing for you as you kind of transitioned into this role?
Just ain't academia. That's the biggest one. It's just not, you know, we get prepared to go into academia. And I guess for my lab, we kind of have a lot of people don't go to academia. It's kind of 50-50. Some go into industry, some go to academia. But, you know, sometimes I'll get into meetings and, well, when I first started, and I want to lay it down like systematically, like this, and this. And that's not how it goes. You know, money is the bottom line. So sometimes you just got to kick into action.
Right. Okay.
Make the right decision at that moment and then come back from it. Whereas in the lab, you know, I'm using the product. I got time at my hand. I didn't pay for the product. You know, they
right.
If I use it and it's messed up, it's okay. I don't have a customer behind me. So some of these ideas that you want to bring to the table and have a research-based like initiative, it may not always play out because of time and finances and whatever it may be.
So you're finding that the industry environment has some additional constraints that you don't have.
Oh, yeah.
Academia, or it's just different.
Yeah. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just a difference because a lot of students, you know, are pushed towards academic
right.
positions. And, you know, that's not always the outcome, you know. So we definitely need to be helping students along the way a lot better than, you know, than what some were taught, because there's more opportunities out there for PhD level individuals than there used to be.
Right. Okay. So that kind of leads into my last two questions. So the first one is, what type of not that you're familiar with NSF, so you understand this term, but what type of broader impacts do you think your research has on the community in terms of your customers and
so for me, a part of my job, and you know, it was not in my description though, but I feel that I'm here to help people understand the benefits of pesticides and insecticides and herbicides, you know, why we use them and how they're beneficial to us. You know, there's a lot of information out there, you know, Roundup, glyphosate, whatever it may be, but if we lose some of these products, the world will look totally different. So, you know, like entomologists aren't needed until Zika comes up. When Zika comes up, everybody's worried, you know, let's not kill all the mosquitoes, but let's manage our mosquito populations better. But outside of that, it's not really being talked about. But here comes Hurricane Michael, and you see 1,000 articles about giant mosquitoes in North Carolina. And then my phone is blinging up. You know, it's just going out of current control. And so I think the bigger issue to me is getting people to understand the benefits of them and to quell some of the fears associated with organisms, not just my own. So people are just so fearful of things they don't understand, but I try to give our technicians the information again to let people know that, hey, every spider isn't going to kill you.
You're right.
They do have a place. And some could say that's counter to my industry, but I'm okay with that because I think there is need for understanding of things. And especially, because we're losing, some aspects of biological science. Everybody's going towards more engineering and more computer science and whatnot. And, it's beneficial to keep these natural sciences alive because there is opportunity there and they do have some benefit on our overall life. Everyone, people love to be outside, and you shouldn't always be afraid to be outside.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty cool because I think some people, I'm myself included because I'm not, in a similar background, think about certain insects or things that I'm just like, what would be the purpose of a mosquito? Like, why not just get rid of all mosquitoes? But yeah, being able to speak to that.
And from a cultural context, and I guess I'm getting on a soapbox now, especially for us though. A lot of us grew up in urban centers and don't have the same access as other people to nature. So, I live on the West Coast and it's nothing but land and opportunity here. But the majority of us live near Seattle or Tacoma, all this other space out here. So kids get an opportunity to be outside and just kind of run free, whereas we're usually in the concrete jungle. So we're not as exposed to going hiking or exposed to going fishing or all these other things that we could be doing because we don't do them. And we don't do them because you live in New York City.
Right.
You live in Atlanta, So
right.
The other thing, just giving children really a different perspective and saying, hey, wait a minute, the first time they meet an entomologist is usually me. And the first time I meet entomologist is far and few between. So get them to understand that there is more to do out here than what being a doctor or a lawyer or an athlete.
Yeah, that's cool.
And experience things.
And the last question would just be, what one piece of advice would you give to an undergraduate student that was thinking about getting involved in research?
Do it. That's a good point. Because, it comes with a lot of opportunity. It really does. And it comes with understanding of where you potentially see yourself down the line. Either you're going to like it or you don't. But at least you can say that you did try it out. Because I did have these internships, I was able to get out of school and I taught 7th grade science. And I was like, nope, that ain't it. I want to do research. So I was able to go back to that because I had those experiences. And it just makes you a little more well-rounded and it just helps you shape your next steps. So do it, and you can get paid doing
it. Right. Yeah, that's one thing we've definitely been harping on. Well, yeah, that was the last question. I appreciate your time. Yeah, and thank you for being you're the first basic scientist that we have on our kind of group of speakers. So I appreciate that perspective.
Word.